Here we will see clean architecture in ASP.NET Core. Clean architecture is a software architecture pattern that organizes an application into layers with clear responsibilities. The main goal to make an application with clean architecture is makes the application maintainable, testable, scalable, and independent of frameworks, database, and UI. The core principle of clean architecture is to point the dependencies inward. That is, outer layer can depend on inner layer, but inner layers must never depend on outer layer. First principle is separation of concerns. Different layers handle different responsibilities, which improves maintainability, readability, and system organization. Then dependency rule. Dependency should point inward so that core business logic remains independent of UI, database, and framework. Then testability. Business logic should be isolated from external systems, which makes unit testing easier and more reliable. And independence of external agencies. The core application logic should not depend on external tools, frameworks, or services, which ensures flexibility and easier system evolution. Clean architecture has 4 layers: domain layer, application layer, infrastructure layer, and presentation layer. The domain and application layers are always the center of the design and are also known as core of the system. In clean architecture, all the dependencies of the applications are independent or inward, and the core system has no dependencies on any other layer of the system. So in future, if we want to change the UI or framework of the system, we can do it easily because all other dependencies of the system are not dependent on the core of the system. Then we'll see different layers in the clean architecture. First is domain layer. Domain layer is responsible for encapsulating the core business rules, logic, and behavior of an enterprise or application. It is a central part of clean architecture, so it remains completely isolated and independent of external frameworks, databases, user interfaces, or third party. It defines what the application does, not how it gets its data and displays it. Then application layer. The application layer contains the business logic. All the business logic will be written in this layer. In this layer, service interfaces are kept, which are separate from their implementation for loose coupling and separation of concerns. Then infrastructure layer. In the infrastructure layer, we have model object. We will maintain all the database migrations and database context objects in this layer. In this layer, we have the repositories of all the domain model objects. Then presentation layer. In case of the API, presentation layer represents the object data from the database using the HTTP request in the form of JSON object. But in the case of front-end applications, we present the data using UI by consuming the API. The request flow in clean architecture is: first, user sends a request through HTTP or JSON, then controller receives the request and passes to command. Command handler executes the request. Infrastructure repository saves the data and response returns to the client. Benefits of using clean architectures are easy testing. That is, application layer can be tested without a database. For unit testing, we will use mock repository for testing business logic. Then database independence. You can switch from SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and MySQL without changing business logic. Then framework independence. Business rules are not tied to ASP.NET Core. Better maintainability. Each layer has a single responsibility, so it will give better maintainability for application. And scalability. With clean architecture, large applications become easier to manage. Using clean architecture is good choice when you are developing enterprise applications, banking system, ERP system, healthcare systems, e-commerce platform, and long-term projects.